Okay, so I've got the case off again. I'm ready to do the modification, adding a potentiometer to the motor, allowing me to reduce the speed though not increase it. I've seen two variations of this, one where people buy a different kind of motor that's got 4 inputs. If you really wanted to make this a faster motor, you know, to be able to do 3 3/4 inches per second instead of just 1 7/8 inches per second, then that would be a way to go. I've seen it suggested in user 173's video that maybe this is a bad thing to add a pot onto this stock motor that's going to damage the motor. I don't believe it will. I don't think it's going to do any harm whatsoever. Or unless you need a higher speed motor in there, then I don't think there's any problem whatsoever with just using the stock motor and wiring in a little pot there. The pot that I had lying around is 1K. Both Third Island and user 173 seem to be saying 500 ohms. So what I've done is I've got a 1K resistor wired in parallel. So that's dropped the maximum resistance of that in half. If you're not sure why that works, then look up the formula for adding resistor values in parallel. But you can see I've just run the legs of the resistor through these 2 holes. I've also snipped off this contact. The fact that we're using these 2 pins rather than these 2 means that when that's turned fully clockwise, then that is the minimum resistance, whereas it's at its maximum resistance when it's turned fully anti-clockwise. So, you know, faster speed that way, slower speed turning that way. So it's about 7 ohms when it's turned up fully. If I turn it down, it's going to go to nearly 500 as opposed to the 1000, 1 kilo ohm that it was rated at before I put that resistor in there. My soldering iron is heated up off screen. I'm going to remove the solder from here. You could use a desoldering gun. I'm going to use braid. I just find it cleaner and easier. And I've also got some bits of extension cable tinned. So let's get the old solder off. It's a little reluctant to melt, so I'm going to introduce some fresh solder into the joint. That should mean it melts more easily. If I heat this up, I should be able to pull those wires away. In hindsight, I've got no idea why I removed the black one. That's absolutely not necessary. We're adding a resistor in series with the red contact. So I've removed that black cable from the motor unnecessarily, and the black tinned cable that I showed you earlier was also unnecessary. I guess I'm just having a brain fart. So just use this little mini vise to keep this still. Since these are tinned, I should be able to just heat it and then they'll stick. Like that. Right. Okay, I've got the Brothers nylon and Drome back in just to test it. To make a hole in the case for this to mount to. Contrary to what I've seen done in other videos, I've decided to mount the pitch control in the back here. I just felt like it's a bit further away from the heatsink that's on the buck converter and the chassis of the cassette player. Something I wouldn't advise you do, I've just used a corded drill with one of these. I can't remember what the name of that is, but the further in you go, the wider the hole is. This is a very high revolution drill, so I was happily spinning away in this smaller size that I know is thinner than the shaft of the pot, and then it suddenly gave way and I immediately went up like 4 levels. So actually that hole, if you took away that washer and that nut, anyway, if you took away those parts you would see that the hole's actually a bit too big for this. So yeah, don't do that. Use a lower revolution drill and start with a small bit and then go up to a larger one and a larger one until it's a really snug fit. But I think for this purpose it's going to be fine.